been talking to myself again, but it's the only way.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters 5-minute rant. We've swapped it around, haven't we? The boss has spoken and he's like, right, it's time for the rant. And I completely agree. I think he's absolutely right. But welcome everybody. My name's Chris Hall, as I'm sure you all know, and I'm joined by my co-host Pete. Evening, Pete.
How you doing?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm not surprised. The boss man has changed it to a rant because he was pulling out some rants himself because we were stood right in front of him, weren't we?
We were
yesterday, and he was not happy. Neither were we. And I'm sure we'll get into that. But I'm not surprised he's made it into a rant. And Bill Burnett has already mentioned. Can we make it a 15-minute rant tonight? You know what? If we had the time, I think we would, because I think there'd be enough guests on that would want to vent their frustration after that extremely poor performance yesterday, which we definitely will get into, mate.
Yeah. Do you know what? We've got quite a few guests waiting, so we won't be too long, Pete. But you and I were at the game yesterday, which seems really bizarre, doesn't it? Because obviously we met up, which was lovely for the second time, so that was great. And obviously, you know, we took the game in. We were at the King Power, and well, I'll start with you, Pete. What were your feelings on overall on the match, on the performance? What highlights? What things do you want to mention?
The highlights for me was us having a few beers together before the game, and I have to say it was great to meet up with everybody. I'm just going to whack this on here. Great to meet up with everybody at the away pub yesterday. Great to meet Ben Jacobs as well in the flesh, who was doing some recording for his American TV channel that he works for. It was great to see so many people, so many fans, and the atmosphere was fantastic. That's the positive thing, and I'm sure I won't be the only one tonight that will get into that. The atmosphere from when we got outside from when we were in the counting house, we turned up, didn't we, in the Uber, and we could hear the chants going. Everyone was outside, everyone was on the beer, really enjoying the day. And the atmosphere just kind of carried all the way to the ground. And when you got into the ground, nobody was in the concourse. There was nobody queuing. Like, I don't know where it was, because we went in two separate entrances, didn't we, Chris?
Yeah.
But where we went in, nobody was there queuing up. And it was, it was a good time before the game started. Everybody was in their seats, chanting, cheering. Everybody was up for that game because we genuinely thought we had a chance of nicking something, and we were all bang up for it. I'll go into my opinion of the game now. I'll try and keep it brief, but for the first 10 minutes, everyone's opinions were that we were going to get something from this game. We pressed hard, we pressed high, we were winning the ball high up the pitch. We caused Johnny Evans to pull his hamstring because he was having to track back so much in that short period of time. And when he goes off Leicester's best centre-back, we think, wow, like indeed he's not a centre-back, but he's gone back there. It got to about 10, 11 minutes. We just stopped. We just stopped pressing. We just stopped doing it.
And we moved further back. I think I said to you during the game, 10, 15 yards back. It was as if they'd said, right, you've done that now, move back. And it just invited Leicester on, didn't it?
What it allowed Leicester to do was settle, because it allowed them more time on the ball. Because we weren't pressing them high and giving them 1 or 2 seconds on the ball rather than 5, 6, 7, it allowed them to get comfortable with the ball and start playing their own game. And then that allowed them to get into the game. And once they were into the game and they had possession, they dominated possession. And so disappointed. And we just went back into our old moods, our old attitudes of sitting deep, not pressing, allowing them all the time with the ball. And at some point, they're always going to break us down. It's just a shame in the way in which it happened. But even then at half time, it was a case of my mate Lowell that was with us. He said, still second half. We've still got a chance to turn this around.
And the back end of that first half, Pete, it just wished that had gone on another 5 or 10 minutes because we were really starting to take a hold on the game. And also, which I know we haven't spoke about, I'm so surprised VAR didn't turn over that penalty. You know, I keep watching it back, and I know the leg's there, and I know Lascelles shouldn't have his leg there, although we discussed that during the game, that he was put under unnecessary pressure by, I think it was Shelby, wasn't it? He was passing back to him, and really he shouldn't have put it in that area. We should have just cleared it. But if you watch the replay, and I've watched it 4 or 5 times, Maddison is on his way down before the connection's made. And how they haven't spotted that, Pete, it's just wrong. It really is.
Every ref that we've had since pretty much the takeover, but certainly since Eddie Howe's come in, has had an absolute shocker refereeing our game. Every single ref that we've had has had an absolute shocker, and all the decisions seem to be going to the opposition. And I'm not surprised that some of our fan base seem to think that there's an agenda against us, because it does seem that way. It really does. And even when we do get penalties, like the one at Norwich, they spend 15 minutes checking it to see if there's anything they can do to not give it.
To not give it. Yeah, I know.
It's a
that
joke.
That was the quickest decision of a penalty, and even from where we were sat, it was a bit like, was it a pen?
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes they look Stonewall. That definitely wasn't Stonewall. And the more and more I see that replay, I just think you can see he's on his way down, because he knows he's going to make connection with the foot, and it's just wrong.
Anybody knows James Maddison, that's what James Maddison does. He goes to ground really easily. It's as if he's trying to imitate Jack Grealish, but Jack Grealish actually commits to contact. He's that type of player, because he is actually very, very good and very talented. There's question marks about Maddison, if I'm honest with you, consistency wise, but that's another conversation. Anyway, I'm not going to dwell too much on the penalty incident, because my issue was the overplaying that was unnecessary in that period of time. And before that penalty happened, I called 3 or 4 times before that to just hit the ball long, because we were overplaying, and we're allowing them to push further up the pitch, to press us higher, because we just kept doing the same thing. And at some point, we were always going to get caught out, because we kept doing the same thing. And we kept giving it to players on the ball in really difficult positions. I don't mind playing out from the back, but there are times to play and there are times to go long. At 41 minutes in the game, you want to see out to the half time. And just before the penalty, I said to Lowell, we just need to see out to half time now. So at that point, Dubravka takes responsibility, because what he should be doing is saying to the rest of the defenders, get up, I'm going long, and just playing it up there, because the further away from the goal it is, the less likely they're going to score. And Callum Wilson was bullying those 2 defenders, causing problems. They weren't having their own way, right? And you had Joelinton in and around things. We should have stuck to what we know best. But instead, he gives a hospital ball to Shelby. Shelby gives a hospital ball to Lascelles. And then before you know it, Lascelles is there. Maddison's done what he's done. We're our own worst enemy. And at that point, if we go in at 0-0 at half time, the game's still open. Leicester is still on knife edge. We are still in the game. So there's an opportunity for us to come out in the second half with confidence to turn the game around and to turn it in our favour. That all gets shattered. It's the worst time for us to concede a goal. Anyway, as I said, at half time, we thought we got an opportunity. What I saw in that second 45 minutes was an absolute fucking disgrace. It was a disgrace. The attitude was all wrong. The attitude was back in the Bruce days, right? They came out 1-0 down. The game was already done in some of our players' minds. There was no positive attitude. The amount of time we got the ball down the wings and in good positions, and we put it into the box, and the only one that's there, Callum Wilson. No Willock running in. No Joelinton running in. No one coming from the other side of the pitch. So if ASM's going down the left, nobody coming in from the right. It's an absolute joke. Do you know what
as well, Pete? There was occasions
balls into the box and plays into the box. There's no way we're going to score goals that way.
No, but there was occasions, Pete, where they should have put the ball into the box, and instead they cut it back, and then the player would dwindle on it, and then it'd go back further. It was like we were playing in like a triangle, an upside down triangle, and the ball just kept going back and back and back and back. I mean, we saw it again in the last, I think it was about 20-25 minutes, and we were playing the ball back. And you're thinking, get it up there, get it in the box, get players in the box to cause some issues. And we just didn't see that.
Even at 2 or 3-0, we were still creating opportunities down the wings. How many times in the last 5 minutes of the game did Jacob Murphy or Manquillo beat their fullback and get into the box, cut it back, and no fuckers there on the penalty spot? How many times does a fullback or a winger have to cut the ball back for a midfielder, Joe Willock, John Joe Shelby, Joelinton, anybody, for them to know to fucking get on the penalty spot, to fucking commit yourself. We were fucking 3-4-0 down at the time.
Yeah.
Like it's a joke. The attitude is all wrong. The attitude is all wrong. Changes need to be made, right? Some of these players need to know that they are not going to play if they're not going to put it in, if they're not going to do the basics right. Joe Willock's one of them. If he's not going to do the basics right, he needs to get out of the fucking team. I don't care how much we paid for him, right? I don't care how old he is. He's old enough now to know his job. I'm sorry, he's been a midfielder for most of his career. Maybe not a centre midfielder, but he's had enough time to play there. He's had his time now. Get Sean Longstaff in there. Get someone else in there that's going to do the job properly. All right, and get them to prove themselves. A little bit like we did with Jamal Lewis at left back. And he had a decent game. I was disappointed he got subbed. The second point I'm going to make is Alan Saint-Maximin. Alan Saint-Maximin cannot afford to turn up when he wants. We're not in a position to get away with it. He has to press on the ball. He has to work hard off the ball. He has to be better when he's got the ball. Me and Alan talked about this before we came on air. The amount of times he was given the ball, isolated the fullback one-on-one, and didn't run at him, and just went to take him on, then turn back and take him on again, and then get the ball taken off him. We cannot afford for him to do that, no matter how much or how good or how talented he is. If he's going to do that and have games like that, I would much rather an industrial winner that's going to run themselves into the ground, work hard for the team, and then try and create something on the break. I would much rather a player do that than Alan Saint-Maximin being a liability for the team. Because as good as he is a liability to our team at times. And yesterday was a clear example of that.
Yeah, it was.
It's not good enough. It is not good enough. I'm sorry. I love Alan Saint-Maximin as a person. I love it when he's on his game, but his consistency is having a massive effect on us at the moment, because Eddie Howe has clearly put all his eggs in Alan Saint-Maximin's basket and said, you are the guy, you are the maverick to make the difference to our team. But he turns up when he wants. We cannot afford that. And at 60 minutes, I think when Murphy and Fraser came on, I was calling for Alan Saint-Maximin to get taken off. He needed to be taken off. And you know what? I wouldn't play him against Liverpool. I wouldn't play him against Man City. I'd bring him on as an impact player at most, right? Because we need industrial
We need
players.
hard work. We need hard work.
We do. We need players that are going to work and run and press for the team, and not just do it for 10 minutes, do it for 90 minutes. That's what we need right now. But that's me done.
I think you put it really well, Pete. Really well, and you know it's a good job being named the show Rant, because that's exactly what it's going to be tonight. I feel. I mean, we've got some guests now waiting to come on, so I'm gonna bring the first guest on because I know he's been waiting patiently, and he's gonna have to shoot off soon. And it's a familiar face. He's been on before, and it's a delight to have him back. So big welcome to Alan. How you doing, Alan?
I'm all right. I'm enjoying Pete having a rant.
Good, isn't it? When he goes.
It needed it. It needed it after yesterday.
Kicking off. I'm glad I'm not in the studio, mate. I tell you, you frightened me. You frightened me. Listen, this is just to let you know, this is my gym here behind us. This is my centerpiece in the gym.
Class.
Love it, mate. Love it.
Name Chic Physique, Magpie here, and I've got me picture of the ground there. So that's that.
Love it.
So yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I was saying to you before the program started, I can't help but feeling full of elation all the time. I'm like, I think I'm on drugs or something, because I'm full of hope. Even though we got hammered 4-0, I mean, all I can think about is, you know, we're still the richest club in the world. Like, I mean, I can't stop saying this to these United lot come in the morning slagging me off about 4-0 and the weekend. I keep saying to them, enjoy your players now, because they'll be sitting on our bench next season. You know, we're gonna have a fantastic January, and that's all I can think about. Say Christmas coming twice. So I'm not, the game on Saturday was abysmal, let's be honest. But I mean, first of all, Eddie Howe, last time I was on, I was telling the Amanda Stavley to get on the phone to Rafa and ring him up. Do you remember? That's the only time I've been on. He's a regular guest. I've only been on once. And thanks for inviting us back. But I mean, I'm thrilled to bits with Eddie Howe. I mean, I'm in love with the guy, literally. I think he's just a wonderful character to have. And I'm almost ashamed to think that I had my doubts when he was mentioned in amongst the Fonsecas and all the rest of them, that I never really was convinced that he was the man for the job. But I am, even though we just got beaten 4-0. And I understand that, and I understand the pessimism. But to be honest, I'm not in that category. I'm still optimistic. Before I go on to the reasons why, I would just like to say as well, anybody who went down to that game on Sunday, absolute credit to everybody who was in that crowd, because the fans were absolutely second to none. The singing, the commentators, the one I watch, which is, I'm not sure it's Sky or whatever it is in Malta, but I mean, they were absolutely, couldn't shut up about the fans, couldn't shut up about them. There was Beglin, the ex-Liverpool man, he was going on about them. 4-0 and you still can't sing. What a chant. Brilliant. They were giving them a stick. And
do you know what, Alan?
Our supporters.
Just to interrupt you, Alan, it was funny, me and people laughing about it with Steve as well. It got to the point where, their fans, like when something happens, they play a drum or something to get the crowd up. And when they score, as you know, they play music. But it was funny because it got to the point where we were laughing that much at it. When they scored the 4th goal and they were playing that music, we were all dancing with them, and we were louder than what they were.
I was going to ask
funny.
I was going to ask the question because on the TV it showed the Geordies jumping about.
Yeah, we were
4-0 down, and then I saw YouTube on I'm not sure which one of the blogs, and you saw the Geordies jumping about at 4-0. I'm thinking this is mental. It's like when we went down to West Ham and it was the 70s when we got beat 8-2, BG went in goal, and they were singing Christmas carols at the end of the game. And it was mentioned many years later about, how the fans just can't be subdued. It was incredible. The supporters are great. And I always go back to people like Souness at the weekend and Simon Jordan. They don't get it. They just don't get it about us. You can take away the results and everything else, but you'll never take away that passion. It's still there, Sometimes it manifests in a bad way, I agree. But mostly it's a positive vibe comes out of the ground. At the moment, all I'm seeing in the home games is just absolute fantastic supporting. And here on the TV, every game, Eddie Howe's Black and White Army all the time. So that's what I want to say. I mean, I'm still positive. And I'll just say another thing as well. People go on about, they mention Swindon, Derby and Sheffield United being in a similar situation to us and saying if we don't pull ourselves out, the statistics show chances are we're going to go down. But remember, none of them clubs had a backing that we've got financially going into a transfer window. And even if we stay on 10 points, it's going to be tough. That's 26 points to get from January the 1st. It's not impossible.
No, it's not.
I think, as I was saying to Pete before you came on, that in theory was the easiest game on Sunday of the 5 we've got. I think you would probably say Leicester, then Everton, then Man United, then City, then Liverpool's the one that I would probably say we're going to get nothing from. But saying that, you just don't know. You just don't know. We could get something from City. We could get something from United, and even Everton is a winnable game. It's not impossible. But if we do go into the transfer window with the money we've got to spend, and let's be honest, they're going to splash the cash if we're in this situation now. The opportunities we've got to buy players is never being seen in the history of football, ever. Any club in the world has never had this amount of money. So they potentially can spend 220 million to get us out of the crap. And they probably will, let's be honest. They won't let us go down if they think we've got a chance. So I think to compare, the so-called experts like the Simon Jordans, who has got the kind of face you'd never get sick of kicking, him and Souness, what's Souness now? I mean, I was in Spain and he was made manager, by the way. I'll tell you a quick story. I was on my way to Madrid. It's a long story, but I was on my way to Madrid in the car and I knew Bobby had been sacked. And I got on the phone in the car to my dad on the mobile and said, who's the manager? And he said, you're not going to believe it. And honest to God, of all the managers in the world at that moment in time, I didn't want was Souness. Right? I could not believe it. I thought he was winding me up. So, he was a disaster waiting to happen. If you remember, Blackburn, I think, were 4th bottom, and he was made manager of Newcastle United to try to get us out the crap. And I just couldn't believe it. So, for him to talk about Newcastle like he did today, he knows nothing. This is another reason why I didn't want Gerrard to be our manager, because it would be in the same situation for me as soon as he's Liverpool.
Yeah.
Gerrard's Liverpool. How did the Aston Villa fans feel on Saturday when Gerrard went walking back as the returning hero? He's getting his name sung from the terraces. Imagine our fans going down and facing that. I would have hated that. Because deep down, as he admitted afterwards, he knew he's a Liverpool fan. He'll never change. He's the man waiting to take over from Klopp. Everybody knows it. So anybody wanting Gerrard as manager, I'm sorry, for me, it was a non-starter. I'm really happy with how, and as I say, I'm convinced that if we continue even to January on 10 points, I still think we've got a chance of surviving. I'm an eternal optimist. I think this guy's the right man for the job. I think the support, even though there's a few of the Twitter guys come on and a lot of crap, the majority of fans, the guys like on Sunday who travelled down to Leicester, they're the true supporters who really get behind the team. And in the old days, we used to go down to clubs, and one of the badges of credibility was used to outsing the home fans. Well, I can't remember in the last 4 or 5 games where we haven't done that, It's incredible support we're getting. And I think it'll continue up till January and then see what happens then. I think it'll only turn if, for whatever reason, we maybe some of the players, like you're saying about Willock and Maximin as well, I think, they need to come up and step up to the mark. And I agree with what you're saying, Pete, about, I think Alan Maximin, it wouldn't be a bad idea to rest him a couple of games and bring him on as an impact. And I think he needs to be curtailed a little bit because he's running out of ideas at the moment. I think he needs to have a little bit of a rest mentally, But I also mentioned to you as well, and you said it was a good point, and I couldn't believe it. We are 4-0 down. Our next game is Liverpool away. Callum Wilson needs one more booking, and he's suspended. Why didn't he get booked in the last few minutes and miss the Liverpool game? Most people on here will agree that Liverpool is our hardest game. It's our hardest game coming up. I don't think many of us will expect anything out of that. But the next 3 after that, there is a possibility. So why didn't he get booked in that last game, miss the Liverpool game, and then he'd be ready for Man City, Man United and Everton? Because we really could be in the situation when he could miss those 3 games if he gets booked to Liverpool. And I couldn't understand why he didn't do it.
Yeah, great point. I would hate the thought of Callum Wilson missing for December 27th at home to Manchester United or the Everton game on the 30th. I would hate the thought of him missing those games because they're the games where we've got a better chance of getting something. The Liverpool or Man City one, I don't particularly think we'll get anything of them. More so, maybe with Man City, we might get something. But again, we're kind of living on hope there.
So lately, yeah.
So it'd be a smart move, and I am surprised he hasn't done that. To be fair, I'm surprised he's not missed the game already. I'm surprised he's not got a booking already. He's had a few games now where he's been on that tightrope, and to be fair, he's done well to not get a booking there. But it could happen at any point. So why not kind of manipulate the situation and make it happen yourself? You're absolutely right. So yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame, but he's gonna have to be extra careful now because we can't afford to lose him for a long period of time. And I think the fact that we're talking about Callum Wilson in that way just reiterates the point that we need another striker because nobody trusts Dwight Gale. I don't even think the manager trusts Dwight Gale. Dwight Gale's barely kicked a ball. I know he talked about him in a positive light in the press conference on Friday, but he's not even come off the bench or even given him any minutes, so he's not got a chance of doing anything in this team. So we need someone that, if someone like Callum Wilson does get injured, that we can put him in the team and he can do an equally good as job and still be a threat. That's just my opinion.
Just go by the fans. I remember. I haven't been to an away game for many years now. I try to get back to home games as much as possible, 2-3 a year. But I remember sitting in Rosie's bar when Keegan took over. I remember travelling down. I used to live in Hayden Bridge many years ago, and travelling down the 69 and listening to Keegan on the radio. And I think I can honestly say that I think Howe is the first manager I've listened to. I don't know why, but he's got that same. There's something about him. I don't know what it is. And even more so than Benitez. His inspiration, the way he talks. I like the way he talks. I've always liked him. Even when he was at Bournemouth, I always said it. My only doubt was, and I said it last time I was on, my only doubt is, can he spend 220 million in the transfer window? That's the biggest question for me. The fact he's a good manager, the fact he's a motivational manager, I don't think is in doubt. I think it's there to be seen. The only thing I've got my doubts about is, can he attract the right players and can he spend that money? My belief is he will, but I think we have to be positive. We have to go into this January transfer window. Hopefully, I said 16 points before the Brentford game. I said we needed 16 points and I think we would survive. I can't see us getting another 6 points, but I can see us getting another 4 points.
Do you know what? It's a really good point, Alan, and I've been saying this myself for the last few weeks. Like I pinned my hopes on 14, and I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think come the end of Everton, I think that'll be 20 games, and then we've got 18 games left from January onwards. And I thought if we get to 14 points, I reckon we probably need 36, somewhere like that. And don't forget,
that's what I said, 36,
if we were to get 7 wins, that would be 21 points. So that'll put us on 35, and then no doubt there'll be a couple of draws in there as well. So you're talking 7 wins and say 2 or 3 draws from 18. So it's a big ask. But there's a lot of fixtures in January, especially, where you look at it and think, yeah, we could do that. We've got Southampton away on the 2nd. We've got Leeds away in that month. There's a number of games where you look at them and think, yeah, do you know what, we could win that. And like you've rightly said, bring in 2 or 3 players in the January window with a significant amount of class.
I always say to the Man United fans down here, because there's a lot of Man United fans in Malta. It's the biggest supporters club outside of England in Malta. So you get a lot of Man United, Liverpool, whatever. And I always remind them when Keegan took over, went down to Blackburn, and I queued overnight. I think it was about 10 o'clock in the evening. Some of the lads on here remember, queued right away down the Barrack Road, all the way down to Rosie's Boy. I can't remember. I was right near the end, and I was about 6 away. We'd spent all night. They opened the gates early to let the ticket office open early. It was about 8 in the morning when it opened, selling tickets, and they were sold out within seconds. And I was about 6 or 7 from the line. I actually got one off a mate of mine later on and went down there. But the support is amazing. We can't overestimate our support. If we get the support in the team right, this club is going to be the biggest club in England within the next 20 years. Believe me. You know, I'm telling Man United fans, Liverpool fans, enjoy it now because your time's up. You know, it's coming to an end. You've had your time. It's our turn now. And if we just stay a little bit more positive and get the backing of the fans, I'm 62 years old. I was telling people I'll never see my club ever win anything before I die, but I will now. I'm sure I will now in the next 2-3 years. I don't go along with this 5 years. Four transfer windows will be in Champions League for me. I'm sure because they've got money to burn, and it's an incredible situation. The fans will always be there. They've always been there. They'll always stay there. So I think we should be positive and don't take things too literally when, you know, we get dumping off Leicester because their time's finished now. They're going to be mid-table by next season. So I'm hoping we can get out of this, guys. And thanks for having us on. And I'll try to get back again someday. All right?
Yeah.
I hope I don't have to keep my words again and we're relegated. Like, you won't be seeing me again.
Do you know what, Alan? I'm glad you just said that because it's a great point you've made. Do you know what? If we do get relegated, and we've said this before, nobody wants to get relegated, but we haven't got that fear factor anymore because if the worst comes to the worst and we do get relegated, we'll be coming straight back, and maybe it'll give us a chance to clear some deadwoods. We've said this over the last few weeks. It will put a bit of a blocker on our progression in terms of it'll delay things by another year or two, but it's not like it was under Ashley. It's not at the point where if we went down under Ashley, we weren't coming back, Alan. In my opinion, we were not coming back. Under these
I was at Grimsby when
Grimsby
when we got promoted, the famous game at Grimsby. And I turned around to a young lad I was travelling down with on the bus at the time. And I said to him, I said, enjoy this night. It could be the best we'll ever have. And at this moment in time, it's still probably the best I think I've ever supported Newcastle was at that moment. When we went down to Grimsby, we won promotion. I can still remember it was absolutely amazing. And them times are going to come back again now. And I never thought I'd ever say that, you know, but they're coming. They're coming. It's just a matter of being patient.
Exactly.
Lads, thank you for having this. Sorry to keep you enjoying it.
Really enjoyed it, Alan. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Take care, mate. All the best.
Thank you.
He speaks so well, Alan, doesn't he? Really does.
Yeah, I love Alan coming on. Great guy. We don't get him often because of work commitments, but always a pleasure to come on. And he made some great points. I just wanted to touch on the point that he made about our away fans. He wasn't the only one. I've got, obviously, being from Leicester, I've got a lot of mates that are Leicester fans, and the amount of messages that I was getting through after the final whistle that just said, "Your fans are amazing." You know, not even Leicester fans that were going down for the game. Some of them are like Liverpool fans and Man United fans, but they go down to Leicester games. One of them ones, but they all messaged and were just like, "Your fans are just like amazing." They were from the opposite end of the pitch, and they were like, they couldn't believe that we were celebrating more than the home fans when Leicester scored.
Yeah,
so when the music came on, we were all celebrating.
So funny. It was so ironic, wasn't it? Because we were just thinking, we're just buzzing off them because, like, they literally just all start screaming and shouting and, like, you know, they were like finger throwing and all that. And you thought, yeah, but for the rest of the game, you just don't hear anything. So then we were just going, well, we'll just celebrate with you then.
It actually made their celebrations a little bit subdued because
it did.
They jump up to celebrate when they score, but then when they hear that we're celebrating just as loud, if not louder than them, they honestly, I looked from the second goal onwards, from the third and fourth goal, I looked because we were right near on the right hand side as we had the Leicester fans. I kept looking over and they were celebrating, but then looking over at us to say, "Why are you celebrating? And why are you celebrating more than us?" And it was almost like, "Oh, okay," and they just kind of sat down. They just scored the goal, and we were up jumping. But what it does, it just shows them that, you know, we don't care. We don't care. Like, we've got new owners, we've got a new era. Our agenda and our objectives are very, very different to Leicester City's. And look, let's face it, we've been in that predicament a lot of times before over the last 14 years. So I think our fans are very much used to it. But
we broke out into we're shit, and we know we are.
Yeah,
because that's what it's about, Pete. Because we know this time next season or the season after, it's going to be a completely different game, Pete. It's going to be a completely different game, completely different lineup. The exciting times are ahead, aren't they? And we didn't, you know, we hoped we'd get something yesterday at Leicester, and the performance wasn't good enough, and we're the first to say that. But this is the start of a new era. We've not even stepped on the train yet, have we? Do you know what I mean? We're waiting for January. That's what we're waiting for.
What did I say to you in the pub after? I said, in a few years' time, we will be going to grounds like the King Power and turning them over.
Expecting wins. Expecting it.
And we'll be the ones celebrating. We'll be the ones laughing in their faces. We'll be the ones singing those songs. We Newcastle fans don't forget. We don't forget, particularly results like that. And, you know, it won't be long. It's frustrating. It's frustrating now. And obviously, I've had my little rant about certain individuals and players on the pitch yesterday because I think it was needed, certainly from my point of view. But it won't be long. I tweeted out yesterday that we're going to these grounds and we're turning these teams over, playing good football with significantly better players. They can enjoy that moment right now. I think Alan's right. Leicester are on the way down, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Their pinnacle was the top four.
They've hit their ceiling, haven't they? There's only one way to go now, and unfortunately, that's down. Where we said it yesterday, didn't we, Pete? Once they lose Vardy, Tielemans won't sign a new deal. Where do they go from there?
Yeah.
Where do they go?
They're not going to always find gems from everywhere. At some point, Samay, for example, I mentioned to you. Obviously, we were looking at him. I thought
he had a poor game.
He hasn't been good for them since he signed. And they were lauding it as a cracking deal, but in fact, he might well come good in the end. He's still a young player, but he doesn't look the type of special player that they expected him to be. A lot of
they've been used to
players want to leave.
They've been used to signing the likes of Mahrez and Kante and picking them up for buttons, and these fantastic players. You can't keep doing that, as we've proved. We had a successful period, didn't we, in the French market, and we picked up a couple of gems, and then we picked up a couple of duds, and it eventually time catches up with you, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Right. On that note, Pete, I'm going to move on to our next guest. And this will be a familiar face, and we're really looking forward to hearing from him. Big welcome to Alan. Another Alan.
Hi, lads. Nice meeting you.
How you doing?
Welcome back.
Bit down after Sunday, but you've got to stay positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regarding what basically what Alan said, and Pete and Chris, what you've said in the back room. Willock, as far as I'm concerned, I always remember, Pete, when we signed him, I got, like a little bit of information off Arsenal fans, and they said he will not play well in a centre mid two. You need 3 in the midfield for him to allow him to go forward. It's not his game sitting. And I'm just wondering with Willock whether he's fighting to go forward, doing them runs he was doing last year and coming back. And he looks a shadow. Don't get us wrong.
Yeah,
he looks a shadow of what he was last year. We didn't expect him to have the score and run he did last year, but he's not into it. He showed one part at Burnley where he got burst through at the end of the first half last week against Burnley. And I thought, yes, there's signs that he's getting back. But yesterday was very, very poor. There's not many positives, lads, from yesterday. I will say, again, the most hated player, Joelinton, put in a shift. But we've got to remember, of the forwards we've got, and I accept Pete ACM, was very poor for me yesterday. Tracking back, helping out Lewis. He did start improving the last 20 minutes where he was tackling and running around, but is that what you really want of him? You want him to go forward and attack the defenders and really strike fear in them and crossing. The chances created yesterday were very, very few and far between, lads, and that's what worries us. Where defence was poor, I'm afraid themselves. And the point I would make about the penalty, lads, if that had been Man City, Man United, or Chelsea, them players would have crowded the referee and demanded the VAR being seen. There would have been uproar. If you thought it wasn't a penalty, you would have, and Lascelles and none of the players seemed to go and shout at the referee, look at VAR, that was never a penalty.
Do you know what though, Alan? Even if it was a blatant penalty, players would still do that. They'd still do it in the hope that the referee would change his mind or go for the decision. But you're right. You don't see any of that. You don't see any of that.
None of it. It was just accepted. And it was funny, lads, with you being at the match, with Dubravna having the ball, they had a split screen on Sky, and they were showing you the F1 at the same time that they rushed back to the match because of the penalty. So it was like cut in half. And then they had to rush back because of the incident with Shelby giving it the Lascelles, and then it was a penalty. It was funny, that because they weren't expecting the pass up to Dubravna. And I agree, Pete. It's the place to kick it long, kick it back, and vary the play. I don't think we should lose hope. I really don't. There's 6 teams in it. I looked at it. There's Norwich, obviously, Burnley, ourselves, Watford, Leeds, and there's bound to be a team that drops in the new year. Always. And I've got a sneaking fancy, even though Brentford are doing well, Brentford and Brighton, I still think one of them will be in it. And you know yourself, Chris, the Everton fans are not very happy at the minute. If they hadn't won against Arsenal, they would have been, morale-wise, they would be in a very bad way if they hadn't beat Arsenal.
They were singing Fat Spanish Waiter last night, Alan.
Yes.
They're going for Eddie. They're going for him big time. Big time.
I think he would have been sacked if they didn't win. If they didn't beat Arsenal, even if they'd have drew,
he'd be gone.
Yes.
And after yesterday, I think he'd have been out of the job.
I hope to God that Duncan Ferguson's not in charge when we go, because I think Duncan Ferguson comes in, all the fans get behind him, and I think you see a different Everton. I hope that Rafa is still in charge when we go to Goodison.
I hope we get him sacked. I hope we get him sacked. I do.
Yeah.
I'm not being funny. Look, I love Rafa at Newcastle United. I absolutely loved him, but he had his chance to hold on, just to come back for us. He rushed himself into a job, right? Liam Kennedy, part of NUFC Matters, on a Tuesday. Tune in, don't be late, 7:00. A little plug there. But Liam Kennedy said it back at the end of January, early Feb. He said, Rafa Benitez has a tendency to rush into jobs, right, without properly thinking it through. He did that. He did
he
exactly that in the summer.
Did that.
He rushed into a job that wasn't built for him, wasn't right for him. Chris knows my opinions on Rafa Benitez and Everton because we had this conversation yesterday. I've got my opinions on that, but I'll save that for another day on Rafa Benitez and why he was signed by Everton. But with Rafa Benitez, he's made another mistake.
Yeah.
He won't see. He'll be lucky to see out that season at Everton. He will be very lucky to see out that season. And you know what? He made his bed. Let him lie in it. Right? I hope we get him sacked. I hope we get him sacked because that means that we've got 3 points on the board and we're 3 points further to our safety, to our goal. We're past Rafa Benitez now. I'm 100% Eddie Howe. 110%.
I am.
He's our manager. That's my priority.
I mean, a point I would make, Chris, Pete, you know, I heard after the match, yes, everybody were all disappointed. But I heard 1 or 2 people saying, that's Eddie Howe's tactics. He can have as many tactics as he wants, lads. But if you're working with crap, no matter how much you turn the furniture around, lads, you cannot change it. If I had a slight argument with my brother-in-law, and I was phoning him after the game, and he was saying, well, I blame Eddie Howe for that defeat.
No.
And I said,
I don't think you can. I don't think you can.
Chris, honestly, if it was 11 Eddie Howe players on the pitch, then I would blame him. But none of them are his players. And he's working with rubbish, lads. And everybody out there have got to realise that he is trying to boost them up. You know my feelings, Pete, about the cells. He didn't let us down this week. I hope he does improve next week. I mean, he said after Burnley, well, season starts now. Well, I'm sorry, a week later, you've let us down again. You know,
he didn't have. You're right. He didn't have a good second half. I thought first half, he was okay. First half, I could see it. There was about 3 or 4 different occasions where he was directing that defence and really pushing them up high up the pitch during the early stages to press them hard up the pitch. Second half, he just went back into it. I mean, I've seen one. I can't remember what goal it was now because some of them were identical. Chris mentioned it at the time during the game. Some of the goals that Leicester scored were identical.
Yeah, they were.
There was one of the goals where, like, Lascelles is a full 5 yards behind any other defender, and as one of the main centre backs, you are meant to be the last defender, but not that deep. Yeah. Jesus Christ! Like it was horrific. But I do have to say, there's been a lot of calls of saying that Fernandes and Clark are the best centre back player, blah blah blah. Look, they're all shit. I'm going to be honest with you. They're all shit. All 4 centre-backs are shit. Even Dummett's shit. They're all shit. Right? I'm not being funny. That defensive unit.
Can we clip that? Can we clip that, Pete? That's
if we're
amazing.
going up the league, none of them stay at the club. Yeah. Even Fabian Schär.
Oh, no, you're right.
Let's be honest.
Agree. Well, Chris, they've showed that in the 5 years. We've never finished higher than 10th in the league, lads. And that's what I want to betray to people out there watching the show is, yes, we've all got our favourites, but which level do you want to get at? Do you want to get higher and compete with the best teams? Well, the players we've got now will not do it. And I really did say it a few weeks ago. I'm hoping they haven't got the attitude that we're not going to be here in 6 months. Why bother? I hope that is not the case. And I hope they try and earn another contract, you know, to be here and be part of the future. You know, that's what worries me with the players we've got now. And like I say, I hope players, you know, if we have a bad run over the next 3 or 4 games, that fans don't get any hours back. Because I really do. We are working with rubbish. And Pete, you're spot on. There's not much quality in that squad. You know, to get forward. It's been 14 years of neglect. You know,
I was only referring to the centre-back, not the whole team. I was only referring to the centre-back, to that little mini rant.
That was
centre-backs are shit. That's just the reality. They are. We can mock up which best centre-back pairing. We can mock up the 3. We can mock up a 2. I'm sorry, they're all shit.
The only one, Peter, I've got a little bit of hope in, just to add in. The only one who I would maybe look to keep hold of is probably Schär. Because I do think as a ball-playing centre-back, I do think he's good, but he probably does need someone next to him. I mean, to be honest, if you were playing next to Lascelles, is it you're not getting that leadership, are you? And I think that's why we've always preferred Fernandes and Shaw, because I think Fernandes is probably our best centre back overall. Is he going to be here in 2 years? Probably not.
No.
He probably won't even be here at the end of the season. Yeah, that's what I mean. He's past it, isn't he? He is past it. But you're right, though. It is pretty shit. It is.
Chris, to be honest, as much as I had to go at the cells, I thought Shaw had a terrible game yesterday. Again, he wasn't. He didn't cover him.
You know? He didn't cover himself in glory, did he? He didn't at all. No.
But I do think there's 6 or 7 teams out there that, you know, you focus. Leeds have got a hell of a run like we have, lads. They've got, you know, Man City on, I think, Wednesday or Tuesday away. And then they've got Arsenal. And then they've got another hard team over Christmas. So, you know, if things pan out the way we hope they do, they're not going to be improving much, you know. Watford play Burnley on Wednesday, lads. I don't know if you know. So I want a Burnley win or a draw, because if Watford win, then the gap will be 6 points or 5 points. Yeah. So you do want a draw or Burnley win. Either way, lads, apart from a Watford win, it's going to be 4 points.
See your point.
If it's a draw, Watford are going to be 4 points ahead of it. If it's a win to Burnley, they're going to be 4 points ahead of it. So that's what I want. But it's, you know, it's one of them things. I think we've just got to stay positive, and keep cheering on the lads. I thought the fan base was fantastic on Sunday.
Yeah, it was superb. It was a pleasure to be involved in it, Alan. I've got to admit, that was like Pete said at the start of the show. That was the big positive from the weekend. I mean, our fans. We've always known our fans are fantastic, but literally, it was like surreal. You could just see, you could just sense the enthusiasm, the passion, the commitment, and we didn't. Although we know we are shit. We're still there supporting the lads. We're still there, and the players came over at the end, and thank God they did, because if they hadn't, it would have been a shit show if they didn't, because the fans were superb. No, they didn't want to. They didn't want to. Hal's made them go over, and Hal clapped for a while, didn't he? And rightly so. Rightly so.
Yeah. Apparently, ASM went straight down the tunnel.
Yeah, that doesn't fucking.
ASM was one player that did come over. I noticed that myself, but there was a number of them. Callum Wilson came forward very quickly, did his clap and walked off. You could tell he was just...
He's probably pissed off, isn't he? He's probably pissed off.
He's not getting... Lads, if he was in a decent team, he would be getting 15, 20 goals. And that's... The service is terrible. And I agree with it, the last caller. In some ways, he should have got booked and missed the Liverpool game. You know, because, you know, when you're getting served... And how many chances will he have on Thursday night? I don't think you'll get many. He won't get many, lads. So Alan made a great point about Wilson, really did, because I think we've always given Man City, even though they're a class act, they're fantastic. We've given them a game over the last 3 or 4 years at home, and Man United were very poor against Norwich. Very lucky to beat them. You know, I saw the game; they were very lucky to beat them. So, you know, there's still hope there, lads. I really do. But with Willock, lads, if he's not playing in the centre with 3, like I always remember Arsenal fans saying that if he doesn't play in a 3, he's very ineffectual, and it's proven at the minute with it being centre midfield. He's not good. He's not good, lads. So take him out and get Longstaff in. Is my advice.
Yeah. I think Pete said the same, didn't you, Pete, at the start of the show?
Yeah.
You know, it might be time to drop him, because he doesn't look. For me, it's not even as if he's trying things and it's not coming off. It really doesn't look like he's doing anything, if I'm honest. And he, for me, as well as Maxi, was the biggest disappointment for me on Sunday. Willock, he I don't know whether I said to you, didn't I, Pete? I don't know whether it's lack of confidence, whether it's lack of effort. He just doesn't look right. I even said to you that, you know, is he carrying an injury? Because he just doesn't look at it. He doesn't look happy. He doesn't look like he wants to be there. And that's my concern.
That's it.
There seems to be an attitude issue. I don't mean like in a sort of a negative way. It's kind of like an attitude to do the right thing. I don't know whether he thinks that maybe he's better in a 3. A bit like Jamal Lascelles, because I think you mentioned, Chris, he got moved out onto the left and he wasn't active. That's it.
Yeah,
but,
he wasn't.
But I think it's a bit like Willock. Willock wants to play as the attacking of a 3 midfield, but we're playing a 2. So it doesn't allow him to get into the box and do what he likes to do. But ultimately, he's got to do what's best for the team. Now, we had a similar situation at the back end of last season where he wasn't really playing that well. So he got dropped for a few games and he came off the bench and became an impact player. Why not do the same again? Why not have him on the bench and say, look, if you're not going to
20 minutes.
If you're not going to influence the game, we won't start you. But you've got to go and prove to me that you can get back into this team, and you've got to play the way that I want you to play.
Well said, Pete. Yeah.
It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. As a manager, that's what needs to happen. I know the likes of Saint-Maximin and Willock are seen as some of the better players in the team, and they're players that long term Al would want to work with. So I think he's probably being too kind with them at the moment. But at some point, he's going to need to make that decision. There's no better period to do that than over the Christmas period. It's to drop those players, give them a rest, tell them it's a rest, tell the media it's a rest, but actually say to them, you need to prove yourself. You need to prove yourself you can get back in this team.
Because, to be honest with you, lads, every team, especially the top teams, will be rotating their players because the games are so close together. You've got to, we've got 5 games in a matter of 20 or so days now, lads, after Liverpool, then Man City, then Man United, and then the Everton game's about 3 days later, and then the Southampton game's about 4 days later after that. So we've got 5 games. So in a way, lads, we'll have to rotate some players. Well, at the back, Fernandes comes in, which we all want to see. But we'll wait and see on that one, like that. But I think it's a lack of creativity that's worrying us as well. We've only scored 5 goals all season away from home, lads, and I think we're bottom of the pile, or 19th out of all the teams playing away scoring goals. So that's a very big concern going forward. But again, it really does. I think our season will, unfortunately, depend on the January transfer window, lads, how we get in and how they can bed into the team. Yeah, but I'll let you go, lads. I know you've got a lot of callers on.
Alan, really appreciate it, mate. Always love having you on, and we're going to give you one of these.
Cheers, Chris. I always like a goal.
Yeah.
Always like a goal.
Absolutely, mate. But yeah, listen, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. And it's great to see you. And hopefully see you next week.
Great stuff, Alan. Take care.
Thank you, mate. Cheers. Oh, do you know what? There is lots to be positive about, isn't there, Pete? I know we've been a little bit negative today and we've had a little bit of a rant, but we all know what the positives are. We all know that, it won't always be like this. Unfortunately, we've got to kind of still hang on in there from the it's like the hangover, isn't it, from the Bruce and Ashley era, and it will only get better, but we unfortunately we've just got to wait until we can start improving the squad, which will then improve the performances, which will then improve the results.
Yeah, definitely. And I know there's a few in the chat that have said, Longstaff's not the answer. Why bring him in for Willock? Well, if you're playing someone that's not playing well, is not playing well in that position, but they keep getting picked, when are they really going to ever learn their lesson? When are they ever really going to get that kick up the arse to say, you need to fight for your place? Now, I'm not saying that Longstaff's the answer, but bring him in against Liverpool. We're not, the high chance we're going to win the game anyway. So bring him in, a fresh face, someone that's been sitting on the bench and is playing for his future and might turn up a performance. You can only look to Jamal Lewis that's just done that over the last 3 games. I think he's played well. But it sends a message to Willock that you can't just walk into this team every week and just be guaranteed.
This is it. 25 million. Oh, put him in the team. Because you're not playing well.
Doesn't matter how good you are.
No.
If Willock's not playing well, why would he deserve a start? We've said the same about Jamal Lascelles. Jamal Lascelles has arguably not been playing well. So lots of people have said, why should he start? We've asked the same question of Joe Willock. If you're not playing well, if you're not putting performances in, why do you deserve to start a game? I asked the same question of Alan Saint-Maximin. Alan Saint-Maximin's not played well in 4 games. We're in a relegation battle here. We can't keep affording to kind of carry a player that's at times being a liability. And I just wanted to make the point clear. I'm not talking about Alan Saint-Maximin tracking back. He did that over the course of the game on Sunday. That's not my concern. My concern is the 3-player press going forward, pressing up the defenders high up the pitch. When you can see Joelinton doing it on the right-hand side, when you can see Callum Wilson doing it, but then when Alan Saint-Maximin does it or doesn't do it, it allows teams to play out. Everyone has to work as a team. You watch some of the best teams that press, Man City, Bayern Munich, Barcelona in their heyday. You know, even lesser teams are doing it. The likes of Crystal Palace, the way they press going forward, they do it as a unit. If you've got one player that doesn't do what the other two are supposed to do, the whole thing falls apart. And if you watch the game back, you'll see Alan Saint-Maximin time and time again not pressing high up the pitch. And so you look at Callum Wilson. I looked at him 3 or 4 times in the game, and you look at Joelinton pressing out on the right. You see Callum Wilson pressing through the middle, and then they're looking at Alan Saint-Maximin, and he's 10 yards off the pace. If you're a player up front playing with Alan Saint-Maximin in that position, you're going to be pissed off that you're working your arse off to press that ball high up the pitch, and the one guy that you need to do it is the third wheel is not doing it, and then they're able to play out because of it. Something has to change. Eddie Howe needs to make that decision. He might not. He might stick him in the team. He's a talented boy, Alan Saint-Maximin, but he's not consistent. And he's not consistent with the job that he's supposed to do. And his job is to press high up the pitch, win the ball high up the pitch, and when he's got isolated, one-on-one with the fullback, to take him on, get the ball in the box or shoot. He's doing none of that at the moment. And that's the big issue with Alan Saint-Maximin. But Joe Willock is playing arguably a hell of a lot worse. So I'll ask the question to a few that have mentioned it in the chat. Do we keep a player in the team that's playing shit? Or do we and just accept it? Or do we actually move him out the team and give someone an opportunity to prove themselves that they can play in that team?
Yeah, it's not about saying that they're the better player or they're the answer. That's not it. But you can't just keep regurgitating the same thing because you're not getting a response, are you? And like you say, you could drop Willock for a couple of games. He might come back in for, say, a Southampton game, and he's thinking, you know, I'm gonna have to up my game here. I'm gonna have to make sure to put a performance in. I want to keep me place in the 11. You could see a rejuvenated player, or if he thinks he's in the team regardless every single week, no matter what he does, is he going to have that inspiration to do that? Is he just going to think, well, I'll play next week, so it sounds.
Exactly. That's exactly the point that I'm making. I'm not saying that Joe Willock's a worse player than Longstaff or Hayden or whoever. I'm saying he needs to know that he can't just guarantee be getting picked every week. We did it last season. We dropped him for 2 or 3 games, and what did we get on the back of that? Willock then came off the bench and started scoring goals, and then started scoring goals. Now,
yeah, Willock was dropped initially by Bruce, wasn't
it? That's exactly what happened. Because he was told that he wasn't going to guarantee to be getting a game. He needed to prove himself. What did he do? He proved himself. And then he became a regular in the team. And that's why we paid 25 million for him.
So it's a really good point, Pete. Right, I'm going to take this opportunity really quickly before our last guest to run through the sponsors. Okay, so big thanks as always to our main sponsor, SpiderVPN, for all your internet security. Get in touch with the lads at SpiderVPN. They are the ones that you can trust. We then have skipsandbins.com, which is the lads at Skips and Bins can be contacted on 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website address is www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free, and pay as you go waste collection. We also have on board this month L&G Family Funeral Directors. They can be contacted on telephone number 0191 389 7245. A new sponsor, Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp, and cannabinoid specialists. The website address to contact themselves there is www.thegohd.com. Another new sponsor, we have Arcot Interiors. For all your kitchen needs. They're established in 2010. Get in touch with the lads at Arcot Interiors, and I'm sure they will be able to provide you with a lovely kitchen. Our good friend John Justice Allen, who is in the chat, he can be found at qtechshop.co.uk for all your pool and snooker table needs. The QTech Shop are based in Wallsend in Newcastle. We also have the familiar faces of Jab Signature. Jab Signature have their own website now. It's www.jabsignatures.co.uk. The lads produce all the flyers and posters for the show, so big thank you to them as always for their support. And as you know, they do a fantastic clothing range, so get yourself on the website. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you click on the logo, Newcastle Legends. Don't forget to like the show. Keep the comments flooding in because we absolutely love them, as you know. And don't forget to share these videos with your friends and family who you think may be interested. If you haven't had a chance to watch us live, don't forget you can catch us on iTunes and Spotify. So whether you're out walking the dog or you're in the car, you can always catch up on the shows. And finally, a plug for Loaded HQ, as we do every week. Myself and Pete are joined by Rich, Daz, and Martin. And if you're after more Newcastle content, Loaded HQ is the place to go. We're just over 1,500 subscribers. We'd love to get to 2,000. I know a lot of you in the chat already support us, so a big thank you for that. But yeah, if you want to see more of me and Pete, Loaded HQ is the way to go. And I think that wraps up the sponsors. I'm now going to go to our final guest, last but definitely not least. We have Chris. How you doing, Chris?
Hello, lads. How are you tonight?
You good, mate? How are you?
Very good.
Yeah, good. All right. So, yeah, I'm going to go more on a rant than normal. I know that the previous Allens had hit on some of my points, and you guys raised the point about with Callum Wilson on one more yellow card, and he'll have to sit out a match. I think if he hadn't gotten if he didn't get the yellow card against Leicester, now he has to hang on because we can't afford to have him sit out on any of the upcoming matches if he's not going to be sitting out against Liverpool, and I don't think we should just sit him in regardless there. But what I really want to talk about is I think that the key to this month, and it might sound surprising, but I think we need to do an Operation Bournemouth. So to Chris, to go back to your favorite your favorite recent Newcastle player, Andy Carroll, with his Richie to Bournemouth. I don't think so. Bring Bournemouth to Richie. So I think we need to get a month shift out of Richie, out of Fraser, and out of Wilson. I think we need to drop ASM. We need to drop Willock. I would probably go so far as to drop Lascelles, even though he's the captain. It depends on if we're just going to go play five at the back. I don't know if we're just going to play five at the back against Liverpool, against Man City, Man United. But if we don't do that, I would drop those guys. I would bring in Richie, not as a wing back, but in the midfield. I would bring in Fraser. I would definitely bring in Fernandez, and I don't think that it's I don't think it's the right time for Sean Longstaff. Maybe after December when we bring in new players, but I think of course Matt Ritchie is older and he doesn't have the legs to go a full season or a full match. So I think we can get a tune out of him for 1 month before we bring in reinforcements. And he would really be key. I mean, he was part of our sort of turnaround last season when we brought him in. I think he can really sort of get a shift out of all those players who are just not playing well enough. He can kind of be that extra captain on the field, that on field general, and inspire the lads around him to really put in the maximum effort, because we all know that January is going to be big. It may not be like to be the savior that we're all hoping that it's going to be, but I think that we've got to retool the lineup now these run of 4 matches, and I think that after that we'll bring in new players and we'll have new lineups. But I just don't think we can persist with the same old. And you guys have well covered the issues with ASM with Willock. One thing I heard about Willock, and I don't know whether you guys would agree with this, but one thing I heard was that Willock last season thought that he had a place for him if he played well on loan, that he had a place for him at Arsenal. So he was playing last season to get back into the Arsenal squad, and now that he's not at Arsenal, kind of adrift at Newcastle, he just can't be arsed to play. He's gotten paid, he's got that big transfer or whatever. But I just think he's just not in it, and like you guys said, he's not playing in this favored midfield 3. So I don't think we should be building the team around him yet. But I think, as you guys mentioned, he was on the bench for a while. He was out of the lineup, and then he came back in, and that's when he did his run. So I would say, yeah, let's keep him at least on the bench for the next couple of matches. Maybe as like like I was talking about, Matt Ritchie maybe not be able to go to the whole game, so maybe he'll be like a sub for Matt Ritchie. But I would rather Matt Ritchie start and then have Willock come in later rather than ASM and Willock be just nailed on starters, because I think that they need kind of it's not just a squad adjustment, but like an attitude adjustment or something. I'm sad to say it, because I thought that everyone would kind of be inspired to play under Eddie Howe, and Eddie Howe has said, in order to have a future here, you've got to impress me. So he's not giving anyone a pass, and I'm surprised that I hope that he's already been having these conversations with ASM and Willock behind the scenes. We don't need to know about what he won't. Of course, he's very controlled in what he reveals about, and fair play to him. But I think that we've got to do like an overhaul of the lineup for the next month until we get the January transfers incoming.
I think you're absolutely right, Chris. It is. We're all waiting for January, aren't we? And we're all hoping, that we bring in the right players, and hopefully Eddie Howe and his backroom staff and the owners, they're all having these discussions and they're all working out exactly who we're going to bring in. And ideally, unlike the previous regime, where we'd be scuttling around in the last few days of the January transfer window, it should all be done pretty soon. And you'd hope that there's going to be some, there's going to be some transfers that have already been agreed. And literally, as soon as the 1st of January, or whether it be the 2nd of January comes, those players are sent through the door, and they're like, right, get on the training pitch. Let's get you involved in the team as quickly as possible. So that's the hope. To touch on your Willock point, Chris, I think it was a really good one that you made. And, going back to something that me and Pete were talking about a couple of weeks ago, where we said that Joe Willock seemed quite unhappy when he signed. Pete, we spoke about that, didn't we? And it's a good point you make, Chris, about whether he was told that he would have a future at Arsenal, and maybe he was playing for that future. And then, because I think if you remember, Pete, I said that I'd heard anyway that Willock was told by Arteta he had a future, and then the bid came in from Newcastle, and then somebody above Arteta, so whether it be the managing director or the owner, said no, he's going. That's the place.
Arteta was so insistent. Like, of course, the manager is not going to say, yeah, I'm going to trade him, but he was so insistent that Willock wasn't kind of going anywhere, that you kind of thought, well, maybe it's not up to him.
It does make you wonder that, and obviously we know at Arsenal they do like to balance the books, don't they? And Arsenal fans have got issues with their owners, haven't they? They've had that for a long time, and they're looking for new ownership like we were. So that brings its own troubles. But Pete, what do you think on what Chris said? Any other points you want to raise from what Chris said?
No, I'm in agreement with the Joe Willock thing, the Joe Willock situation. He didn't look happy when he signed for the club. I was just hoping it was through lack of playing time and it being a very quick turnaround. But moving away from your boyhood club after potentially being told that you've got a place is a real kick in the teeth, and it might knock you for six. But we're in a position where we need every player fighting for this club right now and playing at their absolute maximum, and I don't think he's doing that at the moment. But I mean, I'm interested, Chris, from my point of view, because you made some good points and you talked about one or two players coming out of the team. What would your team be going into the game against Liverpool? Thinking about your formation and would you make any changes?
Okay, so I would at least I would play at the back. I would have Cher and Fernandez and Manquillo and Lewis. And it's a question of whether he'd play 4 or 5, but I'd play 4. And then let's say in the midfield, I would have probably Fraser. Who else do we have? I would actually. One person I didn't mention is who I think we can also get like another sort of month out of him would be Hayden. So I think we've got to go back to the Hayden Shelby partnership. It's not the most exciting. You're not going to get a lot of goals out of that, but I think those guys solidly work together. So I would have Hayden and Shelby, and then in the middle, and if you wanted to play 3, you could have like a Longstaff or something like that. And then or it kind of for me it kind of depends on where you would I ideally play Fraser. Is he's more of a wing than like a front 3. He wouldn't be like I don't think he'd be playing. I don't think he'd be like a direct replacement for like ASM like in a front 3 with Wilson and Joelinton. But maybe he sort of plays like as like a number 8 or something like that, kind of just behind the front line, and kind of provides that sort of deeper attack. So that's kind of how I do it.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, it's always going to be a difficult game regardless anyway, but it's whether you mix it up or whether you stick. I mean, I think Yano's put in the chat about the 3 centre-backs and it being more attacking when we played against Brentford compared to what we've done now. He has the opinion that it's weak in the team, and you could probably argue against that. I think the likes of Shaw and Lascelles, whether you start them or not in the next few games to come, they prefer to play better predominantly in a back 3. So do you go with that and bring in your Fernandez to play alongside them as a back 3? Shaw can play off the left because he's got ability with both feet bringing it out from the back. So do you go Fernandez in the middle and Lascelles on the right, or the other way around, Lascelles in the middle, Fernandez on the right, and you go more defensive? Is it going to be about keeping the scoreline down? Do you then bring Hayden in? Do you sacrifice the guy up front, Wilson, and maybe go even with a back 3, go with the 3 in midfield as well, and bring Hayden in and really tighten it up and make it difficult for them to play? Yeah. Or do you block out the wing play because they like to play down the wings? Do you block out the wings and make it really difficult, double or triple up on the likes of Salah and Mane? It's an interesting one, and there'll be loads of different opinions. I think at some point Eddie Howe will go back to a back 3. I think he will. Between now and January, I think ultimately he wants to play a back 4, but I think now, if any time, especially after Sunday, I think he's realised that certain players can't play in the system that he wants to play, and I think he's. I actually think after yesterday, Eddie Howe and the ownership will probably be thinking we maybe need a couple of more players than we actually thought we did.
Do you think that Wilson can hang on to Southampton with the 4 yellows, or he's going to go down in one of these next 4 matches? And
I don't know. He's a very he's a bit of a shit house.
Game too much.
Wilson. He's an aggressive shitass. He likes to wind up centre backs and get involved in tussles. That's kind of what he does. He disrupts the centre backs by getting involved in a bit of a battle with them. But what sometimes that brings is yellow cards and dissent. He's had to be a little bit smarter with his game recently. As Alan from Malta made a really good point, I think he should have took the yellow card at Leicester and missed this game on Thursday, but he hasn't. I think he'd be very fortunate if he makes it until the end of the year. Yeah. So if he makes it to Southampton without having picked up another booking, I'd be very surprised.
I would agree. I think it would have been good, wouldn't it? If Wilson would, I say good, it wouldn't have been good. Wilson missing the Liverpool game, but now he's got to kind of be on eggshells. I mean, just worst case scenario. Yeah. Just imagine Wilson gets booked in the Man U game and we miss him for Everton. That'd just be horrendous. Because Everton now, you're looking at the Everton game and you're thinking we've got a cracking chance for the point, and why can't we get free? That's certainly how I'm looking at the Everton game.
Yeah.
I think I'm being called positive in the chat. I think this is me at my most. This is me at my most negative since I've been on the show. Probably. Look, Alan Dart saying we need more positivity like this bloke. I think
for all the ranting and negativity that's been mostly from myself tonight and from one or two in the chat, or I say a lot in the chat after that game on Sunday, there are still points to be won. Okay. We're in a really difficult period because we've got top teams that are playing against, but you look at Everton, you look at Southampton, you look at, the likes of Watford, Leeds, that are all coming up. We've got points still there to be won. We just need to improve that team as soon as possible. Yeah. We cannot survive this season with the current crop of players that we've got. It's just it's that simple. We need to improve. So we need to get through however we do, scratch, claw, do whatever we need to do to get to that January window with as many points as we possibly can. And then we strengthen significantly in the areas that we need to. We'll move on from there.
One more thing I wanted to point out is I think Alan from Malta was talking about 220 million to spend. I think he was that's the euro figure, because the most I've seen that we could spend is 190 million. But of course, another big thing is we haven't had the big sponsorships announcements, and I wondered what sort of to finish on that, whether you guys think like, will we hear about those soon, or is it sort of like maybe there's not big things to come and we won't hear about it until like after January or something?
I personally, I mean, I'll answer before people. Personally, I don't think there's a mad rush to get the sponsors in, because I know that the sponsors will increase the budget that we have to spend. And I'm sure that they're not waiting to do the sponsors, but I don't think there's necessarily an urgency now, because I think the way I see it for January, I don't think we're going to be spending 200-400 million anyway. I think it's just about trying to bring in what we need now, seeing if we can stay up, and then next season in the summer, if we do stay up, that's when you see the big spends. But the sponsors will be well in by then. I mean, what do you think, Pete?
Yano's made a great point. He's put sponsorships Wednesdays, because if I'm right in thinking, and I might have got the date wrong, but I think the Premier League meeting's tomorrow about the sponsorship. I'm pretty sure they said Tuesday the 14th that they were going to have that discussion. So I think it gets finalised tomorrow. So if it gets finalised in a certain way that benefits Newcastle, then maybe Yano's right. Maybe the sponsorship deals could get announced on Wednesday. It's a great point.
It's mid-December, because I remember when they extended it, they didn't extend it into January, because January is the transfer window. When we would have, if they had extended it into January, it would have been a huge uproar deal.
Yeah. So Yano said decision Wednesday. So the meeting must be on December the 15th then, Wednesday, December the 15th. Okay. I knew it was around this week, because I know they'd extended it for a month or another couple of weeks or something a while back. So it's coming up soon. So I think we'll know very soon, one way or another, maybe even by the end of this week, about what the deal is and what's happening. I actually think if the Premier League are not kind of come together to try and get this sponsorship deal thing changed in some way. I actually think Chris is right. I actually think they would have waited till the end of the season and then brought big sponsorships in and made that then enhance their ability to sign bigger next summer.
Yeah.
I actually think they would have done that, but I think because of what's happened, they've had to move a lot quicker. So where they would have wanted to focus on maybe director of football and 1 or 2 other things that we could have talked about, they've now been forced into making this decision because the Premier League are trying to basically sabotage Newcastle in getting the sponsorship deals that they initially wanted. But yeah, with the sponsorship deals, it could significantly enhance the way in which we spend. And it's crazy that we haven't had we've got the capacity to get a number of different sponsorships in that are worth significant amount of money, and it's crazy that we've been held back for so many years because we haven't had those sponsorships, whereas teams like Leicester and West Ham have been getting bigger sponsorships than us. Tottenham have been able to soar into the top 6 of sponsorships, whereas before Ashley took over they were way below us. Even other teams in and around us, Palaces and the 1 or 2 others are up challenging us for sponsorships currently right now. Like I'm sorry, it should never be happening. So this allows us to really kick on.
But Chris, listen, thank you so much for coming on, mate. I'm going to have to move things along, but listen, always a pleasure, and I'm going to give you one of these, mate.
Thanks, mates. Take care.
Really enjoy having you on. Thanks very much, Chris. Take care, pal. Always enjoy having Chris on, Pete.
Definitely. Always good. Always make some good points. It was a great point, talk about the sponsorships as well. And obviously, really good points as well in there with regards to that big meeting this week. So hopefully, as a fan base, we know a little bit more and the club kind of keep us in the loop.
Yeah, no, definitely. Pete, there's a couple of things I want to run through with you. A couple of questions that we wanted to go back to. I know you wanted to touch on Alan Saint-Maximin, and also we had a question there from Life Goals, which we wanted to touch on. I had a couple of things that I wanted to touch on, but I've just noticed this in the chat as well, so I want to highlight this very important message. Brian Johnson, his mum is 80 today. Happy birthday to Brian Johnson's mum.
Happy birthday.
She knows we've met and what it meant to me. Great lads. Yeah, Brian. I'll tell you something as well, Brian. Your mum was born on a great day because today is actually my birthday as well. So, so yeah, wish your mum all the best, Brian. And I hope she's had a really nice day. So yeah,
definitely,
lovely. Sorry,
happy
people.
No, I was going to say happy birthday to Brian Johnson's mum. I love that. Brian, I had the pleasure to meet you at the NUFC Matters party. Absolute legend. Really, really good chat. Great guy to speak to. If I wasn't so late to the party, we would have probably spoken for another half an hour, 40 minutes for sure. But yeah, absolute pleasure. Thank you for your support. Always been in the chat asking great questions. And happy birthday to your mum, the big 80.
Yeah. So Pete, I'm going to find Life Goals question, and while I do that, I know that you said you wanted to touch a little bit on ASM. You wanted to go back to ASM.
I think I'd already covered it.
Did you cover it?
Yeah, it was just basically, I think people maybe just got it mixed up with regards to ASM when I said he wasn't working hard enough and people thinking tracking back. I actually don't think there was an issue with his ability to track back. It was more of his ability to help the forward line press higher up the pitch. Because if you want to push yourself up the pitch, you need to press higher up the pitch and work harder to do that as a 3 with Joelinton, Wilson and ASM. And at times he was letting down that 3 and it was allowing Leicester to play out quickly when they shouldn't have been allowed to, because there was a couple of times, if you notice early on in the game, when indeed he went to centre back, that we actually nicked the ball off him a couple of times and really put him under pressure. And it was almost like we just stopped doing it. And you have to work as a team to be able to do that. So, it wasn't about the tracking back. I haven't got an issue with him tracking back. He actually has been working harder to do that. And maybe he's focusing so much on his tracking back that he's not focusing on what he needs to do when he actually gets the ball in attacking areas. And that's the bit that he needs to improve on, making the right decision, not just taking on a man for taking on the man's sake. It's actually taking on a man to get the ball into the box on his left foot or cutting on his right and actually hitting the target with a shot. He just needs to be more consistent with his performances. So that was just the only bit with ASM.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with you as well, mate. So we had a question from Life Goals, and it's a question for you, Pete. Could Willock at 25 million potentially end up being a worse signing than 40 million Joelinton? One is revitalised, and the other seems to have regressed. Which I think will, we can all agree on that. What are your thoughts on that, Pete?
Life Goals, it's a great question. Always comes up with great questions anyway, but it's a good one. Do I think he'll be potentially worse than Joelinton? No. And I think this is why I'm frustrated with Willock at the moment and why I think he needs a rest out of the team, or certainly told that he needs to buck up his ideas. Every player needs that at times, to be told that actually you're not doing enough, and until you show me, you're going to sit on the bench. I actually think the talent that Willock has is significantly bigger and better than Joelinton. He's only 21 years old. He needs time, but he needs to learn as well. He can't keep getting his own way and allowing to be starting game after game. Joelinton has made a massive improvement. I think I mentioned it before. How many times he won the ball back for our team yesterday was significantly better than any other. I think Almiron maybe was a close second, but he worked so hard for the team yesterday, Joelinton. But I think Joe Willock's got better ability to have end product when he gets it right, when he finds his position, when he finds the way of playing. I think Joe Willock in front of goal will be significantly better and score more goals than Joelinton. That will propel us up the table. I've got no doubt about it. But he's in a difficult moment at the time, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically, we don't know. But he needs to know that he can't just walk into the team. So I would definitely say Joe Willock won't be a bigger disappointment or a worse signing than Joelinton. I don't believe that. There's a lot of talk about him being the Kennedy 0.2. I don't believe that either. I think he needs to be managed very, very carefully. And, maybe having these couple of games out and maybe bringing him back for the Man United game under the lights at St. James's, or maybe even the Everton game as an option could be maybe the best thing for him. Give him that kick up the arse that he needs, because he does need it at the moment. He's not playing well enough. But I do think he'll have a good career in football, and hopefully with Newcastle United.
Yeah, no.
What about you, Chris? What do you think?
Do you know what? I agree with what you're saying. The only thing I'd say is I'm not wholly, like, when I asked you the question, you seem really adamant that you think that Joe Willock won't end up being as poor a addition as Joelinton. And for me, I'd probably have to consider it. But more, I do agree with you, and I do believe that Joe Willock will turn out to be a better signing than Joelinton. But mine's coming with a bit more hesitancy, because honestly, the performances I've seen out of Joelinton, we're really starting to get a tune out of him. Obviously, he needs to start upping his numbers. It's all well and good seeing the effort and seeing that he's improving, his touch is improving, his work rate's improving, and that's great. And I'm not going to knock him for that. That is fantastic. But we're really going to need to start seeing numbers soon. So I'd love to start seeing him adding a few goals to his game, getting a few assists. He was equally as guilty as everybody else at the weekend for not getting in that box. He wasn't getting in the box, and it would have been nice to have seen that. So I do think Willock will end up being the better signing, and obviously he's £15 million cheaper, isn't he? Let's not split hairs here, but I think I think Willock will come good, and he will probably be a more integral squad member than Joelinton. So I do overall, Pete, I do agree with
you. Yeah, I think you're right about Joelinton with the numbers. I think we do need to see numbers from him now. We seem to be getting performances and consistent performances from him, where he's putting the graft in, he's working hard, he looks fitter and stronger than he ever has since he signed for us. and he looks more accustomed to playing in England, which is fantastic. But you're right, we do need to see him arrive in the box a little bit more, maybe on the edge of the box, or certainly getting in and amongst things to take the pressure off Wilson when the balls are coming into the box. But he needs to improve his numbers. The only thing I'll say with that is because he tracks back so well and he wins the ball back so well for his team, Joelinton, is that he kind of loses out arriving in the box. But
Yeah, he does.
But if Joelinton's going to do that, that's where I think Willock needs to be taking a risk in getting himself forward and getting himself into the box. So that back end of the game against Leicester yesterday, there was about 3 or 4 opportunities where on the right hand side it was either Manquillo or Murphy that received the ball or beat their fullback and got balls into the box. And so many times it came back out either to the edge of the box or the penalty spot. That's where I would expect Joe Willock to be. That's where I expect him arriving on the end of things. And he wasn't there. And I was asking the question to myself, why was he not there? Where was he? And he was in positions where he didn't need to be. He wasn't where he should be as a centre midfielder. We should have at least one centre midfielder coming on the end of that. And Shelby could be blamed for that too, that he wasn't arriving on the end. There was a couple of times he did. But that's where I want Willock to be, because Willock is more of an effective finisher arriving in that position. What's the point of just whacking a ball straight across goal to Callum Wilson? Because he had 3 defenders around him. They're always going to clear the ball there. So we need to think outside the box. Do we cut it back? Do we cut it back to the edge of the area or the penalty spot? We can, but we need players arriving there. We can't just have Callum Wilson in the box on his own. And that's what it was too many times yesterday.
Yeah, we made it very easy, didn't we, for the Leicester centre backs, as you rightly say. Indeed, he pushed into centre back. So he naturally, that's not his position, is it? And then you had Soyuncu, who made a very dodgy start to the game. I remember he made a couple of mistakes, but then he got a chance, like you say, he got a chance to settle into it, and then you started to see a more assured performance from him. But so that was us again, not taking the impetus and not trying to make things uncomfortable for him, which is disappointing because there was an opportunity there. Pete, I'm going to mention a couple more things, and then we'll probably have to wrap up because I know time is ticking on. So the first thing I want to do is I've put this on social media, and I just want to say it on here because honestly, I was absolutely blown away by this. When I was traveling up to Leicester to meet yourself and obviously go to the match, my train got cancelled when I got to Nuneaton. So I went from Liverpool Lime Street to Nuneaton, and my train got cancelled. And you could say I was stranded there. I knew that eventually a train would come, or I was hoping it would anyway. But you know what? There's a gentleman called Colin, and he's known by the name of Tooney on Twitter, and also a fella called Gary Miles. And you know what? They both messaged me while I was in Nuneaton. I think Tooney lived about half an hour away. So Colin and Gary Miles lived in Nuneaton. And you know what? They both offered to come and pick me up and take me to the match. And I just want to say a big, massive thank you to them. It just shows what our fan base is like. Do you know what I mean? Salt of the earth. Like I was honestly like quite overwhelmed when I read the messages, because I was just like, obviously they'll know me from these shows and stuff, but for that kind of level of generosity, it just shows what our fan base is like. And I just wanted to say a special mention to them because I thought it was such a nice gesture, and honestly, it meant the world, lads. And I know I didn't need to take you up on the option, but to be offered that by yourselves, was really special. So thank you both for that.
Quality.
Lee Girdleston, I need to make an apology to Lee because we keep saying we're going to get through this question that Lee's asked us. And I'm not going to tell you what the question is because I don't want to spoil it for you, but it is a really good question. And me and Pete have prepared an answer, but I want to give it, the time that it deserves. So I'm going to hold it back till the following week. So hopefully we'll get through it next week, Lee. But you did ask us a couple of backup questions, and these are quite quick ones. So I'm going to ask you these, Pete. Okay. So would you take winning the FA Cup this year, even if it meant we got relegated?
Yeah.
Yes. I would have to agree. Yeah.
I want to win a trophy in my life.
We need a trophy, don't we? We need a trophy. We do.
And
we do.
I would love to. I don't think there'd be any better feeling than us lifting the FA Cup this season. that would just be like an amazing feeling. You've had so many. Alan talked about it tonight, saying he'd love to win a trophy in his lifetime. He's 60 years old. So many other fans have said something similar. You know, I've supported this club nearly 30 years, travelled up and down the country, Europe and back. And I've always wanted to see us lift a trophy and be on those streets outside St James's Park celebrating with the fans, because that's exactly where I'd be, work or not.
Get goosebumps, mate. You're talking about it. It would just be unreal, wouldn't it?
I have dreams about that, and I always think to myself, like, what would I do? Like, we win the trophy, and if I'm lucky enough to be there to experience it, I don't think I'd be at work for a week. I think I'd be up north. Like,
just be on the piss, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I'd just say to the wife, "Listen, I'll be back next week sometime."
I tell you what, the guys over at the Tyneside Irish Centre or the Strawberry need to get a bed set up for me, because I ain't going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere.
I ain't going.
Yeah, you know what? Leonardo DiCaprio me all you want. Get those memes out. I'm not leaving.
I'm not leaving. Yeah. Oh, mate. Nah, it's so true. Great question.
But
to say that you'd want relegation sounds crazy, doesn't it? But the need for a trophy. And you know what? I'd love Mike Ashley to see that the way you've just answered that, because he got that so wrong during his time at the club. So wrong. These fans need a trophy. We want a trophy. And the way that at times, Pete, we disrespected the FA Cup was poor. It's poor. Really was. And we had some great opportunities, to really try and do something.
Agreed. 100%. Yeah, I agree. But, and you know what? We've got an ownership that would get us straight back up, so I wouldn't necessarily be worried.
And there's a little add-on to that question, by the way, Pete.
Yeah, go for it.
So let's say it happens. So say we got relegated, we won the FA Cup, and Lee asks, as an add-on, if we won the FA Cup and got the Europa League, do you think we could make a squad as good as Wolves did in the Championship and have a good European push?
Ooh.
Which is interesting, because on a normal level, you'd probably say, nah, probably not. But under these owners, could we?
Yeah. Well, we have to, obviously, could we? Of course we could. We could have a squad better than what Wolves had that got promoted. We're financially significantly better off that we could afford to do that. Now, the only thing I'll say with that is the type of players they got in were through their ownership, which is Mendes, who is basically a super agent, and a super agent for a lot of Portuguese players, as well as Cristiano Ronaldo. So the likes of Ruben Neves and Helder Costa and one or two others that came through at that particular time were through the agent, not necessarily the club going, right, we want you, we're going to buy you. It was all very much organised through the agent. So they were very lucky that they got those players, because, they paid the best pot of 40. I think they spent more than us in that Championship season. Financially, they spent more than us than what we did when we were in the Premier League that same season.
Yeah,
they obliterated us with transfer fees to get into the Premier League. Now we could do the same, but I think we would have to go into Europe to get players to come over and play for us, because I think we'd find it very difficult to get English-based players to come and sign for us of that level of quality, the likes of Ruben Neves quality, the likes of Helder Costa, and there was another lad that they signed, another Portuguese lad. We would have to significantly improve that for me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, Pete. And the final question, let me see where this question is. Right, here we go. It's from Ryan Sweeney. I'm going to put some other comments up, but you won't need to read this question again, because it's a simple question, Pete. And if you can talk us through it, that would be great. Can we beat Liverpool? Can we? Can we? Pete, I'm going to be there, mate. And you know what? It's funny. Whenever I go to Anfield or Goodison, it's funny because when I get passionate during the game, I'm screaming, I'm shouting. And as soon as I start speaking, you can see loads of Geordies in the stands sat next to me, and they go, why is he in this end? And then I'm like, no, I'm a Newcastle fan, and then obviously the more I'm shouting, they then realise that I'm not like a plant. I'm not just here because, So I always enjoy that. But now, I mean, can we do it, Pete? Can we do it?
Look, there's always a 1% chance in a football match that any team can win on any given day. But the fact that Liverpool just don't lose at Anfield, I know they had a couple of defeats last season, but they went for a really, really difficult position. They're not in that position anymore. They are firing on all cylinders and playing very, very well at the moment. I think we could stifle them. We could make it difficult for them. I think it depends on who they start. Are they going to continue to start with Salah and Mane? They had Ox playing further forward last game and brought Jota on later on. Are they going to do something similar? But if they go full strength, Liverpool will break us down at some point. It's as simple as that. For me, and it sounds horrible me saying this, and I hate saying this, but it is going to be about how many we concede. We're going to have to try and just be difficult to beat and lose by the odd goal. That for me, it would be a positive. If it was at St James's Park, I'd maybe see it a little bit different because we've got 52,000 fans backing us. We're on our home ground. We've got, Liverpool don't always travel very well to us anyway. Over the years, we can get points off them. But at Anfield, it's a different story. We've never played well there. We've never done well at Anfield. Last season was very much the anomaly that we actually got something from them.
I mean, and we were lucky too as well. I mean, well, I say we were lucky. I'll take that back. We deserved the point, and we got the point, and that's the fact. But they weren't really firing. Like I've seen most performances I've seen. Oh, sorry.
That might get us a point. A tribute to Bruce Ball from 191 formation.
Do you know what? Do you know what's interesting though, Pete? And it goes back to what you were saying before Eddie Howe came in. That's just the last point I want to make. Eddie Howe sets his teams up to try and win a football match. So for me, I would be surprised if he just goes 5, 6, 7 at the back and just tries to contain to get a draw. He said his philosophy is always to try and win a football match. And as we know, he managed to do that. He had that famous 3-0 victory for Bournemouth over Chelsea. I'm sure he will have a plan. And let's not beat about the bush here, Pete. If you watch Liverpool the last few games, look at the Wolves game. It took to the 94th minute in order for them to win the match. Liverpool aren't in great form at the moment. Now, before anyone says it, I'm not saying we're going to go to Anfield and go and turn them over. I'm not saying that. But why not? Why not? It's not like Liverpool are winning 4, 5, 6-0 over the last few weeks. I know they've had a few big wins, but Liverpool aren't playing great. I watch a lot of Liverpool. Obviously, I'm from Liverpool, and a lot of my friends support Liverpool. And I love to watch them because I just love it when they lose or even when they draw because they've dropped points and sitting with them. I'm like, oh, that was unlucky. Oh yeah, but inside I'm going yes. But you're right. There's no reason why we can't do it. Is it? Am I hopeful? Obviously, am I expecting? No, I don't expect anything at Anfield. But do you think with this new philosophy from Eddie Howe that we could get something? I was just waiting for you to go. No.
No, I'm being honest. I don't think we're going to win. I don't think we'll even get a point. No. I think the best thing for us is if we just make it difficult for Liverpool. If we can get to half time at 0-0, I think that's positive, and it gives us a platform to build onto. Do I think we'll get to half time at 0-0? No, I think they'll. Oliver Boothroyd, Jesus Christ, man. You're giving us hope here, Oliver. Jesus, I don't see Salah, Mane, Jota, and many other Liverpool players coming away from Anfield without scoring a goal. I just don't see it.
Oliver, I'm just. Do you know what I mean? I'm going the game, and it just mean the way. Like honestly, I think I've already spoke about this, Pete. When I was at Anfield, was it last season? No, it must have been the season before. And it was the 3-1 when Joshua Williams scored in the first 9 minutes. Mate, them 10, 15 seconds, I couldn't tell you what happened. I literally lost my shit. I was on the front row and I went bananas. And then for that minute, I was thinking, well, I think it was about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I was thinking, oh my God, we're going to get something. We're going to get something. And then we lost. We went 2-1 down at half time, and then we lost 3-1.
Yeah.
And Liverpool have special players. There's no doubt about it. On the day, they're probably one of, if not the best team in Europe. I'm aware of that. And we don't normally travel well. We got a point last season. But I don't know. Whether it's the takeover, whether it's just stupid optimism, I don't know, Pete. We pick up points when we don't expect it.
Eddie Howe won't go to sit deep. He will go to play with the more defensive line or more defensive-minded players.
Yeah,
but he won't go to sit deep. It'll be Eddie Howe has the tactical nous to be able to play it a different way, but it's whether the players are able to actually perform what he wants them to do. And I think that's been the biggest problem since Eddie Howe's come in, is that I think the tactics and the style of play and the way in which Eddie Howe wants to play is the way that we want to see Newcastle play. But I honestly think that we've just not got the players to do it. But I don't see it. I've got to be honest. I just want.
No. Did you know what, Pete? I'm going to wrap it up there. That little bit of positivity, that little bit of hope. Pete, imagine next Monday we're on and we've won.
Imagine next Monday if we're on and we've not only won at Liverpool, but we beat Man City as well.
Mate, imagine 6 points, 16 points. Well, we'd all then, wouldn't we? If we beat City, we beat Liverpool, we'd all be going, how far up the table are we going to go? Are we going to finish 8th, or what are we going to do? We'd all just be going crackers, wouldn't we?
It'll be a case of how many we're going to beat Man United by on the 27th.
I know. I mean, I think we're all looking at the next few games, aren't we, and thinking, realistically, the ones where we could pick up points, I know we spoke about this before, is probably Man United at home and Everton away, probably. But, it wouldn't surprise, the way Newcastle are, it wouldn't surprise me if we got a point away to Liverpool and, we maybe beat someone like City, or we're just like that as a club, aren't we? We do pick up points where we're at least expecting them, and obviously they're much needed.
Before we go, one thing I want to see from Newcastle, right? We saw what happened to James Maddison on Sunday, and the fact that he won a penalty. He didn't get fouled. He won a penalty. I want us against Liverpool to be absolute shithouses. I want us to go down in the box. I want us to commit defenders. I want us to be falling all over the place. I want us to be kicking the ball at players' hands and calling for handball. I want us to be surrounding the referee. If teams like Leicester get away with being shithouses and winning penalties and crap decisions like that, why shouldn't we do the same? Those penalties and those things that we win could potentially be the difference in keeping us in the league. I think we need to be a little bit more like a team of pricks, basically. I think that's what we need. We need to be a little bit more like that, and actually, screw over a couple of teams and win decisions. If so many teams are going to do that against us and get away with it, then we need to join. Rather than try and be different, let's join them. Let's start being that. And in games like this, it is decisions like that. It is penalties. The opposition teams concede, where we commit defenders. That's the difference. That's what we need to do. Set pieces, we need to do something different. Just whacking the ball into the box is not going to work against Liverpool. Van Dijk will just clear the lot. So we need to work a free kick, short free kick, work it into the box a different way. I just want this to be bastards on Thursday and really make
shithousery. That's what we want.
But it's what we need to do it. And we've got players that are capable of doing that. We just need to be a bit more like that. I have to be honest.
Bit more streetwise, Pete. Would you say a little bit more streetwise?
Definitely. Like I say, if we'd have surrounded the referee with that penalty incident with James Maddison, I believe they would have probably reviewed it because we would have kicked off. You go back to the Palace game. I was at the Palace game when Palace scored that late goal that got ruled out. I think Benteke scored it. Right. None of us saw the fact that there was a pull. The referee didn't see it. But the fact that we ran over to the referee, we went mad. We will all go mad at him. All the players will go mad at him. Themselves, the lot. He then reviewed it and it got chalked off. If we'd have just walked off, he wouldn't have even reviewed it. The fact that we didn't go mad with that James Maddison penalty, he didn't review it. It wasn't even properly looked at. They would have looked at it in a little bit more detail if we'd have gone mad. No, that he's dived. You need to look at it. They would have. We need to do more of that because teams have caught on to it. There are so many teams, and it tends to be the teams near the top that are smart to this, and they really get on the referee and influence him. We need to do more of that.
Totally agree, mate. Totally agree. Well, do you know what, Pete? I know we've had a 5-minute rant today. Well, it's been a little bit longer than a 5-minute rant. But in tune with the game at the weekend, which unfortunately we lost. But I want to keep the positivity, Pete. So there's only one way to do that, and it's exactly how we did it on Sunday. Are you ready?
Head back with the critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's